آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره من الله والبعث بعد الموت.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين.
So we want to speak about this man, a controversial personality, whose autobiography is in nearly every library in the modern world. A person whose name is associated with change, resistance, and sacrifice. A man who dropped out of school in the 6th grade, but received an honorary PhD from Harvard Law School in Boston, Massachusetts. An individual whom heads of state, presidents, chairmen, kings, intellectuals and educators, they quote him concerning ethics, commitment, and inspiration. A man, a minister, a missionary with a powerful message who embraced and declared the kalima, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only 3 months before he was made shaheed. Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska, somewhere in the Midwest of the United States. His father was a Baptist minister and a political activist, a follower of a man called Marcus Garvey. His mother was a school teacher. Malcolm saw his father killed by European white racists. His father stood up and he did not bow down. And so one night they came to burn his house down, and he defended his family. And they took him out to a railroad track and tied him to the railroad track until the train came, and then after that let him go until the train severed his head. So Malcolm saw his father decapitated this way by these white racists. So that's what put in his heart from the beginning hatred against white people. And so at the age of 9, Malcolm became an orphan, and he dropped out of school at 12. That's the 6th grade. He moved to a city called Detroit, and while he was in Detroit, Malcolm dealt with the science of the streets, selling lots of drugs, pimping lots of women, living a life as a gangster. And at 19 years old, Malcolm got his first taste, 15 years. 15 years in the prison. In the prison, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he reformed his conduct. But while in prison, he met some people who called themselves the Nation of Islam. Now, they were not Muslims, but that's what they called themselves, Nation of Islam. Malcolm stayed in prison not 15 years, but 9 years. And when Malcolm came out of prison, after he pledged his life to Elijah Muhammad and considered himself to be a Muslim, he said, I never lied after that. I never stole after that. I never cursed after that. I never lusted for any women after that. I never drank. I never drugged. I never smoked another cigarette after that day. He was the spokesman for Elijah Muhammad. He built a national newspaper called Muhammad Speaks, a newspaper that is still running today. And finally, and most important, in the last 3 months of his life, Allah allowed him to discover the real Islam. And he was the kind of man that was searching for the truth. So when someone told him, Malcolm, if you really want to know what Islam is, I suggest that you go make Hajj. Go to Mecca. I dare you, go to Mecca. I'll pay for it. And Malcolm, because he was curious and he was a man searching, he said, okay, I will go. And Malcolm said, I remember the letter. He said, I arrived in Jeddah thinking myself to be a Muslim minister, and I felt like a fool. I realized I couldn't pray. I didn't know how to wash. I didn't know anything about Islam, and I felt like a fool calling myself a Muslim minister. And there he discovered what is the Quran. And there he discovered who is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there he discovered who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in Jeddah, in the court in Jeddah, he took the new Shahada and qualified himself to perform the Hajj. Now this deen has produced such men over and over. Malcolm was not phenomenal. It's just that at the time that he came, he was the most phenomenal of the African Americans that America had ever produced.